Hey there, it's Carly. I'm going to be taking you around the garden today, and I'm doing my first ever full garden tour. So this is going to be May's garden tour. I'm filming this on June 1st because I just finished planting out the full garden yesterday on May 31st. So this is the most accurate representation of what May has brought to the garden. I ended up starting to plant out the garden, I believe around May 5th or May 7th. My goal last frost date was May 1st, so wasn't too far off, but was definitely eager by May 1st to get going in the garden. So I did that as soon as I possibly could. And May 31st is when I finished planting out the garden with the heat-loving crops like tomatoes and peppers. So I'm going to take you around each spot in the garden. We have a few different ways that we're planting things. We have some green stalks, we have some in-ground beds, and then we have our raised beds and some arch trellises. So I will take you through each bed, tell you what's planted there, show you what is growing, what's not growing, and things that are growing slowly and things that are doing a little bit better. So I will take you around and show you the garden. So I could have cleaned up this garden a whole lot better, but what you're going to see is a lot of bags on the floor, a lot of empty mulch bags, and a lot of empty containers and stuff like that. But this is our gate. We will have a fully functioning gate at some point, but for now, this carabiner's doing the trick. It's keeping out the chickens, and that's good enough for me. So the first thing we're gonna see when we enter the garden are the two green stalks. I am so thrilled with these green stalks. They're doing exactly what I wanted them to do, but I will give you a closer look at what's planted in each one. So here's the first green stalk that I planted. So this was meant to be filled with all of my greens. So I knew I didn't want to take up precious bed space with a lot of the lettuces and kales. So I knew the green stalk was absolutely perfect for this. So at the top here, this is doing wonderfully. This is a romaine lettuce, and I have some kale sprinkled in there as well. On the second row, we have a butter crunch lettuce variety with a little bit of kale mixed in as well. And these are all looking so nice, and I'm definitely ready to start harvesting from them. Below this, I put in, so these were all starts, and these I started from seed, the smaller ones. So we have some more lettuce in there, some more kale. On the spots that didn't take, I just threw in some wildflower seeds. So I'm excited to get a little bit of flowers going in here too. But we have baby kale, baby lettuce, things like that. In this spot, I did alternating of beets. So this is called a cylindrical beet, and I have 3 that germinated in here, and I alternated beets and carrots. So I'm just trying it out to see how it does, because carrots last year just didn't grow for me hardly at all. So I wanted to see what the green stalk would do for carrots. I mean, they can only go so deep, and this is the shallower type green stalk, but wanted to see how it did. So I do have some carrot germination. The beets are doing amazing. They look really good. So I'm excited to pull those when it's time. And then in these bottom 2 sections here, I have a New Zealand style spinach. So we've got spinach coming in. I started that from seed. I didn't start that from indoors, but it's coming along really, really nicely. And then I have some more flowers planted down here. So that's how this first green stalk's doing. So for this second green stalk, it is herbs and strawberries. So at the top, I started with herbs. So on 2 spaces, I have thyme that I started from seed. I did have a dill start in here, but it completely died. So I started some more from seed, and I have some little sprouts. The only 3 starts that I've purchased so far in this garden, and I'm really proud about this. I started everything else except for these 3 things here. So this is mint, this is sage, and this is parsley. I didn't try to start mint or parsley myself. I did try to start sage 2 different times and nothing germinated for me at all. So I ended up buying a sage start, but that's okay. All right, so I have another dill plant down here, which this one is doing quite well. I'm not sure why the other one died. This is a lemon basil. Over here, we have some rosemary plants and another rosemary. So that is the rest of the herbs. Now for the rest of the green stock, I have alternating strawberry roots and strawberries that I started from seed. So all the green that you can see so far down here are all strawberry plants that I started from seed. This is an Alexandria variety, which I think makes the smaller variety of strawberries, but we will see. I've not had experience growing strawberries in the past. And then all these blank spots that you see so far are strawberries that I'm growing from root. And I have not ever done that before, so I don't know how long that takes to come up. We will see. I don't know if it's gonna be a huge fail, but right now this one's just taking its time to fill out, but hopefully by the end of summer we'll have lots of red little strawberries on this one. If we come over to the left, I have a very large in-ground bed that spans the entire width of the garden. So this is basically a pile of compost that I put down when I first started it. I think it was about 4 to 6 inches high, but with rain and watering, it's definitely sank a bit and it's not as high, and I probably should have gone higher. But this is my melon and squash patch. That's what it was made for. So I have all my pumpkins, squashes, and melons coming down all the way to here. So at the very front of this patch, I had a little bit of space, so I planted some poppies from seed. So those are doing well, they're coming up. We're definitely having weed issues because I didn't plant this high enough out of the ground, and maybe next year I will put some kind of weed fabric over it or build it up some more, but we're gonna have to deal with the weeds this year. But after the poppies, I have 4 honeydew. Now their melons are not doing great, and I believe that they are getting pecked at by birds. I've had to replant some of the honeydew and some of the cantaloupe because some of them just ended up dying, but I think they're getting pecked at by birds. There's a lot of tears in the leaves, and I see birds out on this patch every morning. So not doing so hot. This is our cantaloupe. They're pretty just dry and brittle and not growing very well. This is our watermelon space over here. They're just, I expected watermelon to look a little better than this, but they're just all dry and brittle and shriveled, and I think they've been pecked at really bad by birds. So I don't have high hopes for the melons. I originally thought I was gonna put the smaller melons on a trellis, but I ended up using the trellis for green beans instead. So I don't know, maybe next year we might have to put some trellising in this area instead. So behind the melons start our squash. The first row I have here is a spaghetti squash, and the squash are coming up pretty well. They are also getting pretty chewed at by what I believe are birds. I've not really seen pests, bug pests on here yet, but they're at least coming up, and I started all these from seeds. I did not plant these inside first. Here we have an acorn squash, and we have at least 5 of those coming this way. Behind that we have a butternut squash that seems to be doing pretty well. This one looks quite stunted, but butternut squash did really well for me last year. And these two are looking a little bit better. So behind the squash, we have our pumpkins. This is a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, and I had really good germination rate for all my pumpkins. I'm quite certain that all of them germinated. There's 3 in each spot. So I have a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. I have, these are sugar pie pumpkins that are looking really nice. And these are called Valenciano pumpkins, which are like a pure white pumpkin. So I'm excited to decorate with those in the fall. At the end of the pumpkin patch, which is right here, and the melons here, I have my sunflower patch. So I put a lot of sunflowers in here. At the very bottom, the very largest ones are the mammoth size. Over here I have the Autumn Beauty, and over here I have the Cutting Gold, and a little bit back there too. So I'm excited to see this explode with sunflowers, and I think it's gonna look gorgeous at the front of this pumpkin patch. So here are my broccoli. This is actually the first thing that I put out in the garden. It's definitely something that I will put out a lot earlier next year, but I didn't have any of the infrastructure yet when it was still cool out. And I know broccoli is a very cool weather crop. So I put it out as early as I could as soon as this bed was done and amended, but I'll definitely put it out way sooner next year. But I do think that it's doing well. So I tried growing a broccoli start I bought at a farmer's market last year, and it just got absolutely riddled with bugs. So this year I made absolutely certain to get marigolds and plant them at the same time as my broccoli to try to deter the pests, and I really think that it's working. So I'll show you up close how nice these broccoli look. So these are the first broccoli plants that I planted out here over on this left side, and they're, I would say, significantly bigger than the ones that are over here on the right, which I did after. I'd probably planted these about a week or 2 after I planted these back in April, and these are doing really nice. So they're looking super healthy, which I've never had a healthy plant like this last year. This one's getting real big, so I'm excited about that. I don't know if it's going to make a full broccoli since it is normally a cool weather crop, so I'm just trying it out to see. Some of them don't look so hot, like this one's pretty yellow and it's a bit stunted, but on the whole I think that they are doing quite well. And I planted a row of marigolds between each section, and I really think that they're working to deter the pests. So I'm happy with that. So in this middle box here, these are the 3 boxes that I had from last year. So they're a little older, they've had things planted in them before, and we're already having some perennial things pop back up. So I basically wanted them to use them for some more perennial things this year. So I decided here to plant some gladiolas. These are 2 different shades. One of them has some nice oranges and yellows, like sunset colors, and this other one is called smoky purple. So I think that's going to be really nice. I also have 2 hollyhocks that I planted right here that haven't quite come up yet, but they're starting to sprout. And then for the rest of this bed, I decided, since my squashes weren't doing so well, that I would try to grow them again. So I grew them in this bed last year and they did really well. So yesterday I put in a couple more butternut squash seeds here and a couple of spaghetti squash seeds here. So we will see if they're a little more protected in this bed, maybe for some reason from the birds, instead of just being out in the open area right here. But we'll see. And I'm probably going to grow, I did plant a row of sunflowers, so maybe once the sunflowers come up, we'll protect them a bit. So at the very end of the broccoli bed, amongst this sea of weeds, is actually a little teeny tiny carrot bed. We built this carrot bed last fall, and it's the only spot that grew some kind of carrot. Now the carrots tasted awful. We probably just didn't leave them in the cool weather in the ground long enough, but they did germinate again, and they've had much more success growing them in this little in-ground patch than I have in the actual beds. So I'm letting these carrots grow. I know it's hot for carrots, but I'm just gonna see what happens with these. In the third of the older beds is where I have all my perennial flowers. So things like dahlias, peonies. So I'm super excited for this bed. So I planted these in this bed last year. I'm quite certain they're peonies. I'm not 100% sure, but nothing came up. But then I noticed this March, I would say, that these two started sprouting. And I started these two this year, this winter. So I transplanted them in here. I also have these that have started growing. These came up all on their own. I'm not sure what kind of peonies are in here. I know there's dahlias in here. These gladiolas I planted last year, and I have random 5 coming back up. I don't think gladiolas are perennial, but they just must have gone dormant all year and didn't grow, even though all the others grew last year. So I'm not sure why that's happened. I made a little short the other day about, I had planted 20 ranunculus and they all got blown away in the wind when they toppled over on my porch a few weeks ago, and there was one single ranunculus left, and I don't think it's gonna make it, but I planted it out here just in case. But I'm so excited to see these peonies grow. I've planted also dahlias in here. I've planted some hollyhocks in here. So we have things coming up, and I didn't label these, so I have no idea what they're going to be, but I'm very excited for them. Got something coming up here. I have no idea what this is, don't remember, but I'm super excited. It's gonna look so pretty here. So at the back of the garden, towards the back fence, is where I have 2 more in-ground patches. These are, I built these a little higher up than the melon and pumpkin patch, and it's doing so much better with weed control. So here I have a corn and sunflower patch, and over there I have potatoes. So corn's brand new to me, and I'm pretty sure I've had 100% germination rate with all of the corn that I planted. And they've all come up looking really nice, and I'm super excited how this is going. I hope they get nice and tall. I don't know if I've planted enough. I know corn is finicky when it comes to pollinating, and that you need to have a decent amount of corn so that they can pollinate and fill out properly. So we'll see. And then I also planted more sunflowers along the front to go along with the corn, and planted all that all the way down. Here is the potato patch. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 potatoes. These are gold potatoes, Yukon Golds, planted out here. And I knew that potatoes were supposed to be easy, and I'm really thrilled to see them come up. So I'm happy with the growth on here. And I just planted them deeply, about 6 inches down, maybe 4 to 6 inches down, and watered them super well, and they have all come up. So I'm really happy with the germination rate on those. They all had probably 4 or 5 chits on them, so I don't know how many potatoes I'll get, but I'm excited to find out. So in the rest of the beds behind me is where the majority of the vegetables are planted. So I'll take you around to the 6 boxes, also the trellises that run in the middle, and let you know what's been planted in each. So in the middle here, we have a full tomato bed, and then we have the bed in the middle is mixed of a lot of things. So here I am standing at the corn and sunflower patch. So right in front of us is the tomato bed. On the trellis here, I have 3 trellises that go across the 6 beds. And these are a mix of beans. So I have a mix of bush beans, contender beans, and jade beans. Some of them I started from seed in the ground here, and some of them I started as starts, and they're all looking pretty healthy. And soon, hopefully when they get bigger, I can start putting them on this trellis. So I also planted some marigolds around here, and I also planted some petunias. So it's gonna look nice and colorful and hopefully keeps away most of the pests. But here are the tomato starts that I planted out yesterday finally, because the weather has finally gotten warm enough at night to do so, and it stopped raining. So on this entire side, the length of the bed, I have all Amish paste tomatoes. So that side's all Amish paste. And if you come around to the other side, in this first section here, I have just a normal homestead tomato. It's not a paste variety, but it's like a smaller slicing variety. And then over on this side, I have a beefsteak variety. So I have 3 of those. I have 4 of the homestead, and then the other side is the Amish paste. On the very end of this bed, I have some basil, just some Italian basil growing. I've got 2 of those, along with the marigolds. So if I turn around from the tomatoes, I have a lot of stuff planted in this middle bed. So the first thing that I put out here were onions. This is also something I plan to plant out a lot earlier next year, but I just didn't have the beds built in order to do so. But we will do that next year and probably have a much better turnout. But in the front here, we have the Alyssa Craig onion. They're honestly a lot more stunted than I thought they should be. I have given them 2 doses of fertilizer, a liquid one and like a granular one, since planting them out, and they've gotten slightly thicker than they were, but I would expect more by this point. I mean, at least I think so. So I don't know how well these onions are doing or what kind of yield I'm going to get, but I guess we'll see. I did behind them plant a row of snapdragons. They're also quite stunted in my opinion. I mean, they're like practically as big as when I put them out, and it's been, I don't know, at least 3 weeks since then. I don't know if I just have not correct expectations. Some of them are doing okay, but they do seem like they're growing really slowly or not at all. Over here, I have some green bunching onions, and then my best performing onions are these ruby reds. These are definitely the thickest stems or thickest leaves that I have, and the ruby red seem to be doing okay. A little better than the Alyssa Craig, but the theme of this garden is, I guess we'll just find out. Moving down this bed, I have a row of 2 rows actually of zinnias. Again, I feel like they're not much bigger than when I transplanted them. I don't know if everything has transplant shock. I'm not sure what's going on. Same with the celery. I planted a bunch of celery, and I really don't think that it's budged one bit. It's not looking that great to me. I don't know why. I've hit it with fertilizer. So I don't know. I don't know if I've done something wrong. I definitely did tests on my compost before putting it in here and had things grow beautifully in it. So that made me think it was all good. I don't know if I should have put some more perlite or something in the soil, but it felt pretty nice and loose to me. So I don't know. These Celery might do something eventually. Maybe I have the wrong expectations, but who knows. The one thing that has grown a bit are these cosmos. I planted a few. I have some white varieties, some blush varieties, and some that are like an orangey red. So hopefully those will continue growing. I do see a bud on this one. So those give me hope at least. In this vacant spot, I ended up just throwing in some zinnia seeds to get some more color in the garden, and those are starting to all pop up. So I'm happy about that. And then over here, we have some cilantro that's starting to come up. So at the end of this bed is where I threw in my little tomatillos. They're really small, got a pretty stunted start when I started them indoors. So I'm hoping that putting them in the bed will give them some growth. Most of them have flowers, so I'm not sure how those will do, but we will find out. That's the motto. And then on the end of this trellis, I have bush beans. So planted quite a few bush beans. They're looking good. They look like they had a rough start, probably being pecked by birds at first, but they look like they've all recovered, and hopefully we'll start covering this trellis soon. And for this third bed in the middle, we on this trellis end have the national pickling cucumber. These also did not look like they were gonna pull through after I transplanted the starts. I actually started to plant some more because I didn't think that they were going to work out. So those are coming up, but I think these are all going to pull through. This one's quite small, but this one looks like it's doing okay, so we'll see. Next to that, I planted some borage. So I have some borage coming up here. It didn't do very well, so I ended up throwing in some of those zinnia seeds to fill in the gaps. So we might need to plant a few more things in this space because the borage didn't come up. These are some more zinnia starts that I transplanted out here, and as you can see, they're just really not doing anything at all. So I planted more zinnias here, and this is a dahlia. This is like a mini dahlia, and it's called Pink Lemonade, which is my favorite little variety. I do have one nasturtium over here. Doesn't seem to be doing much either. But I also planted out some more cosmos, the same varieties that I had in the other place, the blush and the red orange. So hopefully these will start growing and give us some pretty blooms. In this space right here, I've planted some eggplant seeds. So I'll show you in my other bed over there, but I planted eggplant transplants and didn't quite work out. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But these are some flowers I bought from a garden center. And then over here at the end of this bed, I have some dahlias. These are called Strawberry Fields. So there's gonna be some really pretty like blush reds and pinks. And I'm super excited for these. So I have 3 of these coming up really nicely. So more about these eggplant that are behind me right here. I started these eggplants indoors, and for some reason I lumped them together with the other cool weather crops that are in this bed. So I also have cabbage and Brussels sprouts planted next to them. I don't know why I thought that. I should have looked it up a little better, but eggplant are actually, they're in the nightshade family, just like tomatoes and peppers. So they're actually a very heat-loving plant. And for some reason, I just didn't even think about that. So I planted these eggplant out with the other cool weather crops. And I shouldn't have done that. I should have waited until I planted my tomatoes and peppers yesterday. So that's a lesson learned. I won't do that, but that's why I planted the seeds They all are only a variety that has a maturation date of, I think, 80 days. So thankfully they could probably catch up, but I don't have much hope for these transplants that I planted out here. So these are how my eggplant are looking right now. They're just tiny, not growing at all, pretty much shriveling up and dying. Even if these do pull through, and I'm not going to pull them out, that's why I just added the seeds to the other spot. But I think having the cold damage probably has hurt their chances of producing fruit, but we will see. Over on this trellis, I have an Ashley cucumber. Same thing with these cucumbers. They were looking pretty terrible after I transplanted them out here, so I did start some more seeds in between, and I'm hoping these all pull through, and I'm hoping they will go up this trellis here and produce us some cucumbers. In between each crop, I have a row of nasturtiums. These definitely took a minute to get bigger, but they look like they finally are. Same, honestly, for all the rest of the things in this bed. These are all Brussels sprouts. This Brussels sprout is the one that's showing me that things actually are growing. They definitely took a couple weeks to get over their transplant shock, but they are growing. I don't know. I am in zone 6B, so I don't know if that's going to be cool enough to let them grow to full maturity, but we will see. Same with over here. These are cabbages. So I lost one cabbage right there, but everything else seems to be doing okay. Slow growth, but there is still growth. This cabbage is doing pretty well. So same thing. I don't know if it's going to be cool enough here to let them grow fully, but you know, I planted them in the ground and we will see. Okay, here we have our second to last bed that has a mix of things in them. So over here is where I planted all of my artichokes. I was very excited about them at first, but they don't seem to be doing great. They're definitely getting a lot of pests that are hurting the leaves. So yesterday I did end up planting out these marigolds in between them. So I'm hoping that will help deter. This one's not looking so hot, but they do really like water. I've definitely learned that. They will droop when they get too thirsty and look like they're dead, but as soon as you give them a drink, they will perk back up. But hopefully I can keep some of the pests away with these pretty marigolds and get some artichokes, because it's definitely something that I don't buy at the store, but if I had them at home, I would certainly eat them. But over to the left, next to the artichokes, is some more borage. So hopefully once those flower, that will also help. And again, some marigolds that are looking a little sad in between them, but I planted these yesterday. And then here is my zucchini patch. So I had planted, I think 9 zucchini in here, at least 9 zucchini seeds. But for some reason, I only had germination. I had 2 over here right next to each other, and then I had 4 next to each other back there, and then nothing in the middle. So I carefully I scooped up one of the zucchinis and transplanted them in the middle. So now I have a full even patch of 6. So zucchini did really poorly for me last year. I don't know if it was a pollination issue. I had a lot of bees, so I'm not sure what the problem is. So that's why I was hoping the borage would help. So we will see. And then on this side, next to this trellis, is where I have my jade beans. So looking pretty good. I have some ones that look like maybe they've been pecked to death over here, but the others seem to be doing all right. And lastly, in the very last bed, we have our pepper bed. I'm very proud of this bed. The peppers were definitely the biggest success that I had starting seeds indoors this year. And I have some over here that didn't make the cut that I just couldn't fit. So I'll be giving those away, but we'll start from left to right. Over on this side, I have some contender beans that are looking really good and healthy, so I'm excited about those. We have more marigolds, and then we have, I think, 9 banana pepper plants. They definitely did super well for me this year. My husband loves banana peppers, so I'm gonna have to learn how to preserve and probably pickle those. And we will have banana peppers for a long time. I've been picking flowers off of these for weeks now, like a month probably, and I'm finally letting these ones grow. And hopefully it will become lots and lots of peppers now that they're finally in the ground. So I have banana peppers there. Over here I have poblanos. These are the poblano plants. Over here I have serranos. I have, I think, only 3 of them. And then I had 2 little tiny lemon basils left, so I planted those 2 right here, thinking maybe it would help deter insects as well. And then over here are the bell peppers. So in the front here with the lighter color leaves, I have yellow bell peppers, and then in the back with the darker leaves, I have red bell peppers, and they're looking really nice. So I'm very happy with those. So that is the entire garden for the month of May. This is my first, honestly, real garden that I've ever had. Last year I just got a little bit of a taste with those first 3 beds, but I honestly planted mostly flowers that didn't come up. So this is my first year that I'm really doing it, and I started most things inside, so I'm quite proud of myself for that. But there's honestly so much to learn. And honestly, we have a lot to do for the rest of the garden. We are waiting on some wood chips from a local tree service to come bring us wood chips. So that's definitely something we need for these pathways. It's getting a little bit overgrown, and we're gonna have to do some weed whacking and put wood chips down. But for now, it's looking a little bit like a crazy overgrown forest. But there's definitely some cleanup that needs to be done, pick up all the bags of mulch and all of the empty pots and seed starts that didn't get out, but that's okay. I think that I've planted pretty much every space that I could, and I'm gonna need to wait, honestly, for most things to come up in order to know where I could plant out a few more seeds. I definitely want to do dense planting as much as possible. So I did plant things, I think, pretty densely for at least what I'm comfortable with. Didn't go crazy, but if it does work, then I'll know for next time that it does. And if it doesn't work, then I'll know that I'll probably need to space things a little bit more apart next year. So I will keep fertilizing. I do feel like things are pretty stunted. I don't know if that's just transplant shock. I don't know how many weeks it's supposed to take in order for things to take off once they've been planted in a new space, but we will come to find out. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited about this new garden. It's about 1,800 square feet and a lot to take care of for a new gardener, but it's something I'm very excited for and something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So I will continue to do these monthly throughout the growing season and see how things go and see how things don't go or don't grow. But we will find out together. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.